So it's that time of year again. You are just going on the internet, trying to see how everyone else's manga collection looks like at the end of 2024. Well, this is mine. So let's take a look at it, shall we? Hello my brothers and sisters, my name is Daidarius and welcome to my manga collection as of the end of 2024. Now before we get into my actual collection, I want to take a look back on everything I managed to collect in 2024. This is all I managed to collect in 2024. There is a total of 118 volumes, which is an all-time high for a single calendar year for me. Some things that I want to highlight is I managed to finally catch up on Pokemon Adventures. It took me more than 4 years since I started collecting the series to actually catch up, which is a huge deal to me. Then there's also Jack of the Galactic Patrolman, which is a volume that has evaded me ever since I started making manga wish lists, but I finally managed to get that. Then I also managed to cross off Fire Punch with the final 2 volumes. Again, it's a series that's been haunting me for as long as making wish lists, so I was glad to get that off my chest. Then a new series I managed to collect was Neon Genesis Evangelion. Even though I haven't really proclaimed it on here in this channel, I have actually been eyeing this manga specifically since before I started collecting manga on my YouTube channel. And then the final 3 volumes of Alice in Borderland managed to finish off that series, which was such an epic deal for me. Also, I want to highlight that I managed to catch up on Black Clover, which means I bought a lot of volumes this year. And also I started collecting Trigun in deluxe editions and they look so gorgeous, but more on those later. Then Hulk, I managed to get the later half this year, so I have the whole series. And finally a new series I also managed to collect was Colorless, all 7 volumes of that. But that is in all my haul of 2024. I'm actually quite satisfied with it, but I'm not gonna dwell too much on what I bought this year. I want to show you how my collection in totality actually looks like. Alright, now this is the first shelf and there's really only one manga on this, so this is going to be a brief one. But what you see here is Dark Horse Deluxe editions of Berserk, all 14 volumes currently out, so complete or up to date I guess. This series is the definition of a masterpiece. It might be unfinished right now, but currently there are new chapters dropping occasionally, I guess, even after the author Kentaro Miura here unfortunately died. But the newer chapter is actually quite good. But dark fantasy, it's very mature, it's not for the faint of heart, but if you can stomach the contents in here, you will probably looking at a series that is guaranteed to be in your top 10, if not even in your top 3. One of the greatest mangas I've ever read, and this glorious deluxe edition does the art justice. I highly recommend reading Berserk. Right. Already getting to the uncomfortable and awkward positions. Get used to them because there are going to be a lot of those in this video here. Alright, so next shelf beneath the Berserk one, and this is technically my Naoki Urasawa shelf, besides these 2 volumes right here, but we're gonna get to them. First of all, what you see over here is Monster in the Perfect Edition. And Monster is a psychological thriller. It is very lifelike, which means it is a slow burn, but it is extremely effective at actually being that. And it's kind of like a cat and mouse game, but not really, with one of the greatest antagonists in all of manga. Fantastic series, extremely well told, and I highly recommend you actually checking it out. And also getting in these perfect editions right here. Also a good thing, or not a good thing, but an interesting thing about Monsters in Perfect Edition is that it doesn't have connected spine art, but it has connected cover art, which is in this 3x3 mural, or whatever you're gonna call it. Technically it's just a wall of framed images, but I think it is unique, and the fact that it's kind of a big jigsaw puzzle fits extremely well with the content in here. Then next to that one, just behind me here, we have 20th Century Boys in the Perfect Edition, as well as the epilogue 21st Century Boys. This is a series I have yet to read, and the reason is I'm saving it for a review. But you know, with a review means also that I need to write a script and create a video, and it's a big deal. Nevertheless, I am gonna get to it, and I'm looking very much forward to it because it is probably Naoki Urasawa's most highly rated series amongst Monster and a different series we're gonna get to later on. Another thing I like about 20th Century Boys in the Perfect Edition is that the spines are connected. So you can see this pixelated image of what I assume is the bad guy. But since I haven't read it, I don't know. I just know he is ominous as hell. And I also just like the covers in general of this series. And this 20th Century Boys presented by Naoki Urasawa or something like that is printed on it with this glossy finish. It just really finished the deal and look of 20th Century Boys. But yeah, I can't say too much about it since I haven't read it yet. And then next to me, just over here, we have two Akira Toriyama stories. The first one is Nekomajin. It is the Danish version, which is why it might look unfamiliar to you, which is just some one-off series stories with this new character Nekomajin, and it is set, but not set, but kind of set in the Dragon Ball universe. It's kind of a gag series, but I like it. I mean, it's Akira Toriyama. What's not to like? And then next to that is Akira Toriyama's Manga Theater, which is just a collection of all the one-shots and one-off stories that he have created throughout his whole career, including the very first manga he published, which is awesome. So if you're a big fan of Akira Toriyama, go buy it, go read it. It is fantastic. And also considering that we unfortunately lost him in 2024, it just gives a new perspective on this manga volume, specifically because it kinda shows his entire professional career as a manga artist. So yeah, that is this shelf. Mostly Naoki Urasawa, but some Akira Toriyama thrown in there as well. So maybe just the shelf of legends, who knows, I'm not sure. Alright, now on to something completely different. So I'm just gonna go squat here really awkwardly. So what you see me blocking completely is non-manga stuff. Essentially, this is just the spot I have for my comics. And you're gonna see it in the video regardless, so I thought I was just gonna briefly show you my non-manga shelf right here. It is essentially some webcomics called Control-Alt-Delete, some Danish comics called Valhalla, some Danish versions of Walt Disney comics, Duck Comics by Donna Rosa, and then some Western comics with Watchmen and Green Lantern. Let's get on to the manga, shall we? Every year, this is just stupidly awkward, but again, I insist on being in front of the camera. You may wonder, why are you in front of the camera? You're just blocking everything. Well, it's because I wanted my manga collection videos to be kind of different from everyone else, which is usually just a handheld camera, just showing everything. So hopefully you enjoy this, otherwise this is just in vain. Anyway, so we have my non-manga shelf right up here. So next is a pretty famous series, and it's more or less the only thing on here except something behind me we're gonna get to in a moment. So first off, over here you have Manga in Theory and Practice by Hirohiko Araki, also known as the author, the creator, the legend of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. Manga in Theory and Practice is an interesting read. Essentially, it's just a book that goes over the philosophies, the rules, the steps of how Araki actually creates manga, and also depicts what he thinks is the golden road to a great manga story. If nothing else, it is interesting to see how he sees the fields. But if you're a if you're a fan of Jojo's Bizarre Adventures, I think you should read it if you haven't. It is an interesting read and it's not that long. And then next to it, it is indeed the legendary Jojo's Bizarre Adventures Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, and most of Part 6 in this beautiful hardcover edition. I love Jojo's Bizarre Adventures. If you haven't read it yet, or if even while you don't know what it is, then I would like to know how your brain works. But nevertheless, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure is something quite unique. Now, often you think that every story should be unique, but Jojo's Bizarre Adventures is a different kind of beast. It is unique in every single aspect, even in the shonen manga genre, if you can call it that. I can't describe what it is. It's just JoJo's. That's what it is. But I love these beautiful hardcover editions. You have the first 3 parts, which is based on the Jojoniums, which they had in Japan, which is just special editions of the Jojo's Bizarre Adventures stories. And then, since they only made up until part 3 in the Jojoniums, then the remainder is a hardcover 2-in-1 editions of those, but in the same quality as the Jojoniums. And we are gonna get part 7 next year. And in case you don't know, 9 parts exist right now. The 9th part is ongoing. But yes, Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. I love this manga. That's all I'm gonna say about it. I've been on it for way too long. Right, let me move over here. And here you can see another epic manga, which is Rooster Fighter. I love this manga. I kind of try to make everyone read Rooster Fighter. Essentially, it's just a rooster fighting kaiju the size of buildings. If you think that sounds insane, well, it is. The art is insanely good. The humor is insanely stupid. But yes, that is those 2 shelves right here. And I think it's about time we get on to the bottom 2. I absolutely dread this part because, believe it or not, this is not a comfy pillow. Alright. So, on to the last 2 shelves in this whole bookcase. So the first one, as you can see right here, is Dragon Ball. All 42 volumes that exist of Dragon Ball. And you might be a bit confused if you're used to the Viz edition, because you will be like, there's not 42 volumes of Dragon Ball, there's 17, and then there's 20 something of Dragon Ball Z. But originally in Japan and most of the worlds, Dragon Ball was not divided into Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, it was just Dragon Ball. And that's also what we got here. So this is the Danish localized version, which is why you don't really gonna recognize it unless you are Scandinavian or German, because this is based on the German version. But Dragon Ball is the first manga that I ever collected, and volume 28 is the first volume I ever bought, which is why it looks so old as it does, because I read it 100 times. Back then we used to get 1 new volume each month, and you better believe that in that single month I read that volume over and over again. It was the end of the Frieza fight and the beginning of the Trunk Future Droids, Android Saga, whatever. So it is a bit limited with the amount of action in there, but what I read was just so hyped, and it was my first exposure to manga itself. I knew of anime by that point, but still, this was the first time I saw it in the printed format. And after Akira Toriyama's passing, this specific series and this specific volume has just become much more dear to me, and it's much more treasured by me. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, because that's not what this video is about, but I cannot help but think about it every time I actually take a look at this specific series. All I can say is that it is a wonderful series, and if by some chance you have never read Dragon Ball, I think you should do it, even if you have watched the anime. Just the manga itself is just pure perfection in in what it does, which is essentially how it guides the reader's gaze over the page is just on another level. So yeah, I'm not gonna delve too much on it. Just that, read Dragon Ball. And then right here, this is a manga that Akira Toriyama did with Akira Sakuma, which is essentially just how Akira Toriyama made manga. So it's a guidebook, but with the classic Akira Toriyama humor on how to create manga. Very intriguing, love it. I have had it for many years. But yes, that is this shelf, the legendary Dragon Ball shelf. I'm not gonna dwell too much on it. And then you probably wonder, what the hell is going on here? Why is there so much manga and volumes crammed into one space? Well, this is what I call my trash shelf. It is mostly consisting of Danish mangas from Naruto, Full Metal Alchemist, and some books behind me that you can't see. We're gonna show it in a bit. And then these 2 volumes down here, which are German versions of Pluto, which is missed by my account, and I have yet to sell them off. I have also not put them up for sale, but if there's any Germans who wants to buy them, then be my guest, but otherwise they are a reminder of always make sure to check your basket on checkout and make sure it is in the correct language, just FYI. But all these other series is essentially the Danish localized versions that was cancelled because Carlsen, who was distributing this, forgot that you actually need to advertise your series if you want to hit a reader goal. So they couldn't get enough readers. So all of this was cancelled back in 2010. So that is everything that is out of Naruto up until volume 55. There is almost everything that is out of Full Metal Alchemist. We got 19 volumes, but at that point I wasn't really interested in buying the final volume because I'm not going to get the whole series. And then, I'm just going to move over here. And then right here, this is some classic Dragon Ball movies from the 90s turned into comic format. It doesn't really work, but I own the first 6. They exist 15 in total, and I'm not gonna get the rest. But yes, that is my trash shelf. It's not my only trash shelf, but it is my trash shelf. And that's the reason why I call it trash shelf, because I'm not gonna be able to complete these series. Not in this edition, at least. If I have to complete it, I will be in probably this edition of it. But anyway, that is this whole bookcase. I need to stand up. Alright, let's move on to the next one, shall we? Oh, it's good to be standing upright for as long as I can. Alright, I hope it's not seeming like I'm speedrunning this. Well, kinda am, but that's mostly because every year my collection grows bigger, but I don't want the videos to become longer. Anyway, I'm not gonna dwell too much time on it because then I'll just be wasting time. Alright, this is the bookcase right next to the one we just were. You can kind of see some of Berserk right there. Alright, so this shelf right here, which is one of the shelves you actually see in my videos. The other one's gonna be the Berserk and the Urasawa video series shelf, whatever. I'm tired. Alright, so first up right here we have Mobile Suit Gundam, the Origin in Vertical's beautiful hardcover edition. I have already made a review for this specifically, and if you have watched this, you will know I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I still think it is worth a read. I think it does a lot of things right and a lot of things not optimal. But what I cannot fault it for is the quality of this, the story it wants to tell, some of the art choices in here, and just the readability of the specific editions in and of itself. Just the quality build of it alone is enough for me to recommend it, and it also doesn't hurt that the covers are insanely well, but it has more going for it than just art. So if you're into mecha, I guess Mecha Suits manga in general, give it a go. If you want to see how the original anime would work in manga format with some expanded storylines, give it a go. And yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam. Then next to it we have one of my manga one-shots, which is All You Need Is Kill. If you have watched Live, Die, Repeat or Edge of Tomorrow by Tom Cruise, it is based on the same short story, which is also called All You Need Is Kill. So essentially you have this main character who dies and then is revived the same or the former day, depending on how long time has passed, and needs to kill in some way these aliens, which is able to do the same. Kind of an interesting story, not the same as the movie, but you see the similarities in there. I highly recommend it, especially since it's only one volume. Then next to that one we have Planetes by Makoto Yukimura, who is famous for a different series you can kind of see right here, we're gonna get to in a moment. Basically it's just janitors in space, and if you know Makoto, then you know how well he writes humans and their flaws and their aspirations and everything that makes a human complex. He writes well, and it is all present in here. I'm not the biggest fan, at least I wasn't on the ending, but it has been years since I read it, so maybe I have matured with it and will actually like it now. I don't know, but I still do recommend it. It's only a 2-volume series. Then next to that we are getting over to some Inuyashiki. The first one is Solanin. It is roughly about a young adult woman who has lost any direction in life and doesn't really see purpose anymore, so she quits her job and then tries to find that purpose together with her friends, mostly through music. It is an emotional tale, it is a very cathartic story, and if you know Inuyasha, then you know what you're getting into, but this is a milder version of it, and I really do love it. I think it is my favorite Inuyasha story I've ever read. Then next to that, this boy needs no introduction. It's Goodnight Punpun, Oyasumi Punpun, depression in book format, and I'm not even joking here. This is dealing a lot with the subject of depression, and for all of us who have never been depressed, gives us a better understanding of what a person dealing with depression feels like. I mean, at least on a broader term. And holy hell, it is a dark tale, not for the faint of heart, might not even be for the strong of heart, but it is a fantastic story, and if you can stomach it, all the subjects dealt in here, then I think you will find this to be near a masterpiece. Very highly recommended. And that is this top shelf right here, and I know I should get more Inuyasha at some point, and I'm probably gonna, but for now I'm just gonna keep that man in the distance because he often tries to break my heart. I'm not really up for it. But yes, that is this shelf. Let's get on to the next one. This is so freaking awkward, but here we are. Not gonna do too much on it. Alright, so this is the shelf right beneath this top one here. I don't know why I insist on keeping explaining it. You have eyes. You're watching a video, you can see it. Anyway, I only got 2 series on this one. The first one is a legendary historical telling of Vikings called Vinland Saga by Makoto Yukimura of Planet S. This is a freaking masterpiece. This story is one of the very few stories that has actively made me cry. Specifically, the last chapter in volume 13 broke me. Holy shit, it should be illegal how good this is. This is battling Berserk on the greatest manga that I have ever read. It is up there. I still think Berserk's edges out, but Vinland Saga is hot in its tail. It's holy hell. Fantastic series. Beautiful art, beautiful storytelling, perfect pacing and depiction of humans and conflicts and everything. And it's soon gonna wrap up, and I can't wait for the final, I'm gonna guess 2 volumes we're gonna get in English, since these are 2 in ones of that. There also does exist a deluxe edition, and I am a sucker for deluxe edition, but I'm also a sucker for hardcovers, and since these are already in hardcovers, I'm gonna stick with those. But yes, you can also get the deluxe edition. I mean, if I hadn't gotten these, I would have gotten the deluxe editions. Alright, so that is Vinland Saga. Read it. Read it. I also made a video on it. I'm not gonna plug everything I created on this video, but I made a video specifically on the first time I read Vinland Saga. If you're curious about what the story is about, then behind me we have Inuyashiki. I have not read this one yet. Just like with 20th Century Boys, I'm saving it for a review at some point. I'm not gonna know when it's gonna happen, but it's by the author of Ants. Another manga I hope is gonna get the Dark Horse Deluxe editions, please, because those freaking omnibuses are a nightmare. They are way too blocky. I don't like them. I just don't like them. I'm not gonna buy them. Just release deluxe editions, I'm gonna buy all of it. But anyway, I can't say much about Inuyashiki, except I think the story is about an old man getting infected with an alien virus that turns him into a super android, so he becomes a superhero. He's gonna fight a young guy with the same ability. Maybe. I'm not sure. All I know is I looked briefly on it. The art is amazing. The concept is just piquing my interest, and I think it's gonna be a story for me. Hopefully, once I get around to read it. We'll see. Alright, that is this shelf. Then on to the next one. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna practice my stance when I'm doing back rows or whatever, because holy hell. Alright. I know this joke is getting old. I'm just filling time. Anywho, so this shelf is kind of a weird one, because I don't know how to explain it. It's part art collection, part series, parts, other stuff. So let's just get through it, shall we? So first off, over here we have 2 Shonen Jump magazines. What is so special about this one? This contains chapter 999 and chapter 1000 of One Piece. And I'm a huge fan of One Piece. You're gonna see that later. And I wanted to mark the epic milestone by actually getting the Japanese Shonen Jump magazines that had the volume, not the volume, the chapter in them. I might get more at some point. I mean, I know when One Piece is gonna end, and probably also when One Piece, this treasure itself, is revealed. I might get those volumes as well, but I'm not sure. There's nothing more to it than that. Then next to that one, you have One Piece Color Walk, which is the art book of One Piece. This one is the Danish edition, and just as with the trash shelf, One Piece was also localized in Danish, and in 2010 it got discontinued, so we only got one color walk. Luckily, this had the same idea and released color walk 1 and 2 and then discontinued those because they made the compendiums instead. So One Piece color walk compendiums are essentially just 3 color walks in one hardcover edition, and I love those. So we have the first 9 color walks, and I think they exist 10 or 11 at this point. So in a year or 2 we should be able to get compendium 4 maybe, but yeah, they are essentially just art book with some extra material from Oda himself. And then next to that one we have the art book of Fullmetal Alchemist. So yeah, there's not much to it, it's just all the art that Urasawa created during the run of Fullmetal Alchemist. Next to that we have the 3 art books for Naruto. The first 2 are in Danish because that was what we managed to get before the discontinuation. And then the last one is This Is Own, which is in English, but it doesn't really matter because there's almost no text in there, which kind of sucks. Because I actually do enjoy reading the author's thoughts and comments on different art pieces that they made. What was their thought process, their attacking angle, so on and so forth. Anyway, then next to that we have 2 Dragon Ball books. The first one is the art book for Dragon Ball, the Danish version, and the other one is how to draw Dragon Ball, but it is by a fan, not Akira himself. And then next to this one, I'm just gonna move out of the way. Right there, we have the legendary Akira. It is, in my opinion, a 10 out of 10 manga. It is the pinnacle, the description, the definition of perfection. Even if it is not the greatest manga I've ever read, that will still be Berserk, or my favorite manga of all time, which will be One Piece. But Akira in this 35th anniversary edition is just so freaking good. It's just an amazing. If you have watched the movie but have yet to read the manga, you definitely should. The movie covers roughly the first 3 volumes, and even that, then it skips a lot. And I'm here to tell you, the best aspect of Akira is these 3 volumes. And this volume is more or less the greatest volume ever produced by any mangaka ever. It's fucking awesome. So yes, Akira, read it. I don't care how you do it, just read it. It is amazing. But that is this shelf right here. Yeah, I'm tired of standing like this, so I'm just gonna jump on to the next shelf. Alright, I can finally sit down. Thank Christ. I'm gonna try my best to not make too much sound with my hand on this mic. Anyway, so these are the next shelves. Interesting. Right, let's get right onto it. So right over here we have again Naoki Urasawa, Pluto, also a famous story of his, and I've not read this one yet, and yes, it's because I'm saving it for a review. I don't know why I do this to myself. I've heard this is an amazing story, but I'm prohibiting myself for reading it because I'm gonna review it at some point. But it's just how it is. And this is also this series that I got 2 German volumes of by mistake, but I actually managed to rectify it and have volume 7 and 8 in English. So I can't say too much about it except that it covers the Pluto arc from the original Astro Boy, but with Naoki Urasawa's twist and touch on it. I don't know if you can hear fireworks in the background, but I'm recording this on the 30th. So people are practicing for New Year's Eve. Alright, next to that one we have my 3 Junji Ito books, which is Yugioh, Uzumaki, and Tomie. And in case you don't know, Junji Ito makes horror manga. And in that aspect, he is quite efficient at creating horror, creating imagery that is just nightmare fuel, but in the most interesting, can't look away way. But that being said, not a fan of his. And if I must say, of all the manga that I own, these 3 volumes are my least favorite. And probably the only reason why I still keep it is because they are in hardcovers. They look awesome on the shelf. I have read them. I don't hate them. I don't think they're dreadful. I just think they are fine. But Uzumaki is the best, don't worry. That is the best. And if you're into horror, I would give it a go, because even I can acknowledge that Junji Ito is doing something special, considering the medium and the genre horror. He is doing something, but what he does is, it just doesn't work for me specifically, but for many other people it does. So if you like horror in manga format and haven't read Junji Ito by some weird reason, give it a go. And if I had to recommend, Uzumaki is the place to start. Alright, next to that we have Death Note, which is probably a story that doesn't need an introduction, but on the other hand, it is from my generation, because I read a lot of manga in the mid-10s, where this came out and it was everywhere, and now it has been like 20 years. So yes, it is a fantastic story. It is very much dialogue heavy. Next to that one we have also Death Note short stories, which is just all the one-off chapters or spin-off chapters that came afterwards. So essentially after Death Note ended, they produced 2 more chapters, and those are collected in here, as well as the first prototype Death Note chapter, which should be awesome. It was not, because that chapter also exists in the Death Note volume 13, which is essentially just a data book, how to read they call it, but it's just data book, background material on Death Note, but I love it. And then next to this, I'm not having beat roll for it, but that's just a Death Note replica. So a cheap replica with some Easter eggs inside this actual note. Next to that one is the new series I got this year, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, based, I believe, on the anime, but I'm not sure. I haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna. I know I'm not saving this for review. I have enough mangas saved for review. Don't know much about it other than it has connected spines in the form of the top spells Evangelion. So there you go. Right, that is this shelf. So what you can kind of see right here is my Pokemon Adventures manga, and as I stated earlier, I got all of it that is out right now. But yes, Pokemon Adventures, love that series, based on the stories of the game, but with a manga twist. It is initially meant for kids, but it almost peaks into the shonen genre, which is pretty much aimed at teenage boys. It almost gets up there, but it's still mainly for kids. But I'm nostalgic as hell for Pokemon. I mean, Pokemon Blue was what taught me English, essentially. I recommend it. If you like Pokemon, I would say give it a go. And just before we move on, it actually managed to distinguish the different generations' stories a lot. So it's not just the same story over and over again. The main character's not the same. They are all distinguished and have a very specific character trait that separates them from each other, which is crazy considering how many generations they've depicted. Alright, let's get on to the next one. I'm just gonna jump in over here. God damn it, my neck. Getting too old for this. Yet I still keep doing. Alright. So this is the bottom shelf, or just the one beneath, and as you can see, there's the rest of Pokemon. One thing I forgot to mention is that, as you could see in the B-roll, they used to actually make sure that every volume was a different color. Got this awesome thing going here with black and white, where each volume iterates either black or white, and then they just thought, fuck it, black 2 and white 2, red, X and Y, purple. But then Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, this seems like they're going back to altering the colors for each volume, which I hope, because I like that. It looks better on the shelf. Right, so a new edition is right here, The Elusive Samurai. The first 9 volumes is what I managed to get this year. Have yet to read it, but I have heard amazing things about it. You might wonder, why do you even buy a manga series and so much of it if you have never read a single chapter? I'm usually good at actually estimating if I'm gonna enjoy it or not. Except for the Junji Ito part, and another series we're gonna get to at the end of this collection video. I've been dead right, so that is the reason. And next to that, we have Sakamoto Days, also a series I have yet to read. But I just heard that, imagine John Wick, but as a store owner. There you go. That was enough for me. I was sold. So yes, I have the first 10 volumes of that, and I'm planning on getting the rest next year, as well as, of course, reading it. But I cannot say too much about Elusive Samurai and Sakamoto Days. Haven't read it yet. And then at the tail end, there's Jackal the Galactic Patrolman, which I'm pretty sure is gonna be the last Akira Toriyama story on here. I don't think I need to explain now why I got it, why I wanted it. It's because it's his, and also because it ties into Dragon Ball, and I love Dragon Ball. I may not love Dragon Ball Super, the manga, but this was officially written and drawn by him, so this counts. Alright, so that is this, and then at the tail end here, you have the Danish localization of One Piece. I told you I was a big One Piece fan, which consists of the first 59 volumes. We were one volume short of getting the entirety of the first half of One Piece. Shit. I have yet to get the official English translations, mostly because I'm just hoping this at some point, or someone else, are gonna print the officially colored version of this in a hardcover. Please do it. But yes, One Piece, the best selling manga in history, and I think still only the second most selling comic ever. It is only beaten by Superman, and Superman came out in the 30s. That's insane. Alright, but yes, One Piece, and then I also own the 2 data books. They exist more, but I own the 2 data books. So One Piece Red and One Piece Blue is the first 2 data books that came. Again, all of this is based on the German version, so the Germans already have One Piece Red, One Piece Blue, One Piece Yellow, maybe One Piece Green and One Piece Ocean Blue, which is all the data books that exist. I'm not quite sure. But yes, great and awesome extra material. But yeah, I'm gonna get One Piece at some point. I'm just pondering which version, and I'm not in a haste to get it actually, because I'm keeping up on it on the official sites. So yeah, but nevertheless, this is my favorite ongoing manga. If you're curious, it's this one. I don't know why it just speaks to me like it does, but it does. And that is the second bookshelf. We still got 1.5 more to go, so let's go. Forgive me, I just need to. Right. Book case 3. Holy hell, alright. Making strides. So I always find this bookcase to be the most interesting one. Maybe because it has most different series on it. I'm not sure. The other ones have a lot of long-running series, but I don't know. It could also just be me. Anyway, let's get on to this one. So first up over here we have Parasyte. 8 volumes that exist, so completed. Yes, I have not read this. And yes, this is because I'm saving it for review. You're gonna see, I think, 2 more of those. I cannot say much more about Parasyte, so I'm just gonna move on, but I'm looking forward to reading it because it is also a legendary manga with an even more legendary, I think, anime. Anyway, next to that we have Solo Leveling, both the light novels and the manhwa. I love this. In case you don't know, it is essentially just this alternate world where portals, I will say, exist, and there exist these hunters, which is essentially just the same as an RGP character, goes into these portals to raid a dungeon and kill monsters, get all the loot, and then stuff happens. And another thing is that the main character is actually able to level up, but is the only one in the entire world who can level up. So he becomes stronger, more resourceful, learns magic, all of that. It is an awesome series, and we are soon gonna get to the end of the story here. And the light novel, it is all completed, but I have yet to read it. but I have read all of the manga. So yes, I'm not going to delve too much on it because technically it's not manga. Then next to that one we have Record of Ragnarok, the tournament arc, the manga. Or at least that's how it started out to be. Every 1000 years the gods decide if they want to eradicate human. And finally they want to just click the nuke button. But a Valkyrie invokes Ragnarok, which essentially is just the gods have to fight in a tournament against the strongest humans in history. One on each round. So a 1v1 for a consecutive 13 rounds. The first side who gets to 7 wins. And if the gods wins, human dies. If the human wins, they get to survive another 1000 years. That's it. Kinda. The story of Record of Ragnarok. I highly recommend it. I think it is one of the greatest tournament arc based manga that exists out there. Maybe only beaten out by Tenkaichi, but that is still quite new. But yeah, I'd highly recommend Record of Ragnarok. Stupidly awesome series. Still ongoing, and we are way behind. I think volume 23 just came out in Japan, so we are more than 11 volumes behind. So this pick up the pace. But yes, Record of Ragnarok, highly recommended it. Alright, then on to the next shelf. Now this is much more colorful. Love it. Just love how the colors just pops. It's kind of difficult for you to see because I have my spotlight right there and it's just reflecting right there. Kind of see it. Otherwise you can see it in the B-roll. But yes, next shelf, and would you look at that? Hardcover editions of Soul Eater in what they call the perfect editions. The first 16 volumes, and I highly recommend it. It is such a unique art style and I love the story as well. And next to that we have the spin-off short-lived series called Soul Eater Not, which I have not read yet, but I think it's more like a slice of life kind of series. But another thing I want to add is that these perfect editions, I love that the logo there is just different enough between the main series and the spin-off with that kind of cat. I don't know what we're gonna call it. Ooh. I don't know. I'm an old man. But the mouth it has and the wink compared to the more sinister looking angular main story logo. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk too much on it. So yeah, highly recommend it. It's about Hogwarts, but in manga form. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but great series. Then next to that one is what should be, just looking briefly, yes, these are the last series that I have not read because I'm saving them for reviews. The first one is Noise and the Lane by Tsutomu Nihei. I am very much intrigued of what I have seen, and I've also seen PewDiePie's brief introduction into it and then Alex further dive into it, but still briefly, and it just sold me. And I knew I had to actually get these. Noir is essentially just the 0 volume of it, so kind of like the prologue. It kind of sucks that Vertical never released the volume 0 in Masters Edition, even though that, again, Germany, for example, had that. So Noise is by Kodansha, and they made a different format, which is a small hardcover but small edition. And next to that we have Hellsing, also in the deluxe editions. Holy hell, do they look awesome. This crimson red, which perfectly depicts Alucard. All I know about this is that it is about vampires, and there's one dude who's just a beast. I like vampires. I like vampires going absolute batshit crazy and murdering people. So, and I like the deluxe editions from Berserk and hardcovers and such, so I got it. And also I managed to see most of the original anime, so I have a good idea of what I'm getting into, but that was again over 20 years ago I saw that, so memory is extremely vague on that. But yes, I'm saving these two for reviews, and that is that. I'm not gonna dwell too much on it, just gonna get on to the next row. God damn it. Alright, so I'm running out of space to stand on because I have my computer desk right there, so I can't really be in a different position. Anyway, I hope this works. So, next shelf, almost exclusively deluxe editions. So right here we have Blade of the Immortal in Dark Horse. Beautiful deluxe editions. This series is a fantastic samurai tale about an immortal samurai that needs to help a young girl avenge her family against a brutal group of expert samurais just running amok and trying to get their name carved into the history books. The only issue I kinda have with this edition is that the spine is just paling in comparison to the omnibuses, which has these awesome character pieces on them. But that being said, I love my deluxe editions, and I still think even if it is uniform here, it still looks awesome on the shelf. So if you are curious about an immortal samurai doing revenge murdering for a young girl, give this a go. It is more than just action. It does poetry and philosophy and a lot of that samurai tales are usually known for. Then next to that we have Ubel Blood Volume 0, which is the only volume of this edition I'm gonna get because everything else is out of print. I really was looking forward to getting into this, but then Yen Press heard my complaining, so they just released the first volume of the Ubel Blood Deluxe Editions, which is in hardcovers, which is a re-release of the whole series, so of course I'm gonna get that because that means this is not gonna be a stain on my collection, but I'm still gonna keep this because, I mean, you can barely get it anymore. And it's a good reminder of always check if stuff is going out of print before you buy it. And then next to that one we have Trigun and Trigun Maximum in the deluxe editions. I have yet to read these, mostly because I haven't gotten around yet, and by the time I'm ready to read it, all 6 volumes of Trigun deluxe editions should be out, so I can just binge it all. But no, I'm not saving it for a review. But yes, that is my mostly deluxe edition shelf. Alright, this is tiresome for my feet, so let's get on to the next, shall we? Ow, 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 ow. Oh, this is so much better. Oh, my feet. Thank God. Okay, so onto the shelf. So right here we have Helk, all 12 volumes. It is complete. This is a series I have yet to read. The reason is that right now I don't have time. I'm doing other stuff. But also, initially, I actually had time when I had like the first 7 or 8 volumes. But then I looked at the calendar year. I could see that by the end of the year I would have all 12. I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna wait until I have all 12 volumes, because then I'm gonna be able to read everything in one go when I get around to it. But a unique thing about this one is the same as with the Monsters Perfect Edition, is that it does not have connected spines, but it has connected covers, and this one is beautiful. It is just a giant panoramic picture or mural or whatever we're gonna call it, just 12 volumes wide connected image of all the characters and more in this story, and it looks stupidly awesome. But yes, I'm kind of not saying too much about it because I have yet to read it. But next to that one we have a very unique manga, which is Colorless. Colorless is depicting a post-apocalyptic world where the world is devoid of color. However, it has this unique power system where there are some specific minerals that is actually able to show color in this world devoid of color, I should say. And it just looks fantastic because in those instances where those minerals are shown, it is actually printed with color, which makes it pops even more. And yes, essentially the main protagonists just want to return color to the world. I'm not gonna spoil anything about the end. I'm just not gonna. But you should definitely give it a go. It is only 7 volumes and it is a unique tale, unique art style, unique storytelling aspect of it, where it depicts more of a Western noir of the Western comics. So those that does that, so like Sin City, but not as gruesome, but like Sin City, some of the Batman stories and so on and so forth. But it is still a manga with a Japanese artist. So yeah, I'm not gonna delve too much on it, but unique, go read it. Then next to that is the very famous Full Metal Alchemist in the Full Metal editions. As I stated earlier, the Danish version was discontinued, but luckily Viz had my back, so instead of me having to buy the box set of just paperbacks, they released the perfect editions in hardback. Yes. And at the end we also have the Full Metal Alchemist 20th anniversary book, which is essentially just some extra stories that was written for some games and movies and some background info and so on and so forth. It is a very interesting read and giving a lot of background details of Full Metal Alchemist. And in case you don't know, I am actually a big fan of Full Metal Alchemist. I mean, it should be obvious since I have shown it multiple times in this video, but one of the main antagonists in this story, Scar, his right arm tattoo, I have a version of it myself. So there you go. But yes, Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metal Edition. So next shelf, this is Fist of the North Star, which is pretty much the granddaddy of the modern shonen. It was the precursor for Dragon Ball and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They were very much inspired about this, at least the somewhat art depiction, but also in the action department. Essentially just One Punch Man meets Mad Max. But yes, I love this, and I also like the fact that it has connected spines with the blood spatter here forming the Great Dipper. And then over here we have Alice in Borderland, the 9 volumes of that completed, also with connected spines, which I absolutely love with this cityscape. And it's essentially just Squid Game, but in manga format. It is such a great story. I highly recommend it. It is thrilling, it is nerve-wracking, and I love it. Even if the ending is kind of wonky, highly recommend this. But yeah, that's briefly this one. And that's not much to say. Just 2 very awesome series. All right, on to the next one. Oh shit. Yeah, this is flattering. Alright, let's get to it. So we are almost at the end here. So first up, over here we have a reimagination of the beginning, I guess, of Astro Boy. This is also a Danish localization. The art style is cute as hell. I think it is also the most kid-friendly series that I own now that I think about it. I don't think it exists in English, but if it does, give it a go. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And then next to that one we have Yugioh, the very famous card anime series. This is the manga that it's all based off of. It's better than you would think. It is much more brutal than the anime. I love the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. And again, this is the Danish localization, which is one of the very few series besides Astro Boy and Dragon Ball that I actually managed to get all of, because it was not discontinued. It was just never printed again. And then right above me here, you have the 3 Egyptian god cards, but on this, I think it was brass, but it looks awesome. I really do think that it completes the whole shelf here. But yeah, that's that. That's not much to say if you haven't read Yu-Gi-Oh yet, but are considering, I will think you should give it a go. It's not the longest series, only 38 volumes. All right. Oh fuck. And then at the bottom here we only have 2 series. The first one is Jujutsu Kaisen, which just recently ended. It is volume 0 up until volume 23, so I believe everything that is out right now. I enjoy the series, but I do think there is some issues going forward where it drops the ball and ignores a lot of setup, because I think Gege got tired of the series. But yes, Jujutsu Kaisen, basically just Naruto but with sorcerers and a bit more mature. I think it's selling it a bit short. And then next to that we have Mashle, which is essentially just described as One Punch Man and Harry Potter merged into one. I have the 17 volumes. I think volume 18 just got out, and 18 volume will be all of it, so I'm only missing 1 to have finally completed it. Exceptionally funny series, but also serious and has awesome action occasionally, so there's that. Alright, that is this 3rd bookcase. We are now going to get on to the final one, which is just the bottom 3 rows, but alright, onto it. Alright. This is getting dangerous because I am right now balancing my camera on a stack of books because I'm just a bit lazy, because what you see here is the final 3 shelves. Don't worry, I will move the camera down for the final 2 here. But God, we're just gonna briefly take a look at this one. I'm gonna move over here so it kind of stays sharp. Okay, so the first one right here is volume 1 up until volume 34 of Fire Force. Completed, and it is by the same author as Soul Eater. This is a fantastic series. I am still mind blown that this was on a weekly schedule, considering that Soul Eater was on a monthly schedule, and a lot of times the art looks more impressive in here. It is about people spontaneously combusting, and you have these Fire Force soldiers who kinda like firebenders from the Avatar series, trying to not only fight these combusting people who turns into demons, but also figure out what is causing it. So that's it. Then next to that we have even more fire related stuff, which is Fire Punch volume 1 up until volume 8 by the same author of Chainsaw Man. Essentially, have you read Chainsaw Man? Then this is Chainsaw Man, but on fire. essentially it's just a revenge tale, or at least that's what it sets out to be, a revenge tale that this man who is eternally on fire wants to avenge his dead sister, but in classic Fujimoto style, it becomes much more than that. I'm not going to delve too much into it, just that if you're a fan of Chainsaw Man and you haven't read this shit, highly recommend it. Such a crazy series. And then at the tail end, 2 one-shots from Fujimoto. Also, it is Look Back and it is Goodbye Eri. 2 absolutely fantastic one-shots. Highly recommend it. If you do not want to commit to too big of a series, if you want something else, something a bit different, but not too weird, I would highly recommend Look Back. And to some extent, Goodbye Eri. Alright. I'm gonna jump on to the final 2 shelves, and then that should be this collection video. Do I really have to get further down? Yeah, I have. Alright. Here we are. You can barely see this one right here. Just noticed. You see more of the floor than you see this. You're gonna see the B-roll anyway. Alright. Final 2 shelves. And yeah, I'm gonna save this for later. So first off, we have volume 1 up until volume 35 of Black Clover. Up to date, you should get volume 36 at the beginning of next year. And surprisingly entertaining and well told story from the most cliche shonen jump setup and premise ever. It's surprisingly well, and if you have only watched the anime and got annoyed by the main character's voice, well, remember, there's no sound in manga. And it should be ending once it's soonish, because it's in a new magazine. It's not in Weekly Shonen Jump anymore. It's in a Shonen Giga, I think, which is not even quarterly, but it comes out every 4 months with 3 chapters. It's gonna take forever to wrap up, but anyway. Then next to that, we have Kaiju number 8. It is a surprisingly good manga that is also soon going to end. At least it seems like we are in the final stages of that manga. I highly recommend reading it, but you might not want to read it weekly or bi-weekly or whenever a chapter drops, because the way the chapters is structured is like it takes like 30 seconds to read a chapter. So the wait rarely feels worth it, but when you read it in a volume format, it flows so quickly but so easily that it just makes it a joy and a breeze to read. It's hard to explain, but in physical format, while you read multiple chapters at a time, it just works wonders. And it also a nice series about a middle-aged man, tad younger than me, a couple of years younger than me, but having some kind of second go at his life goal, life dream of becoming technically a hero, right? And then he gets infested by a monster, and now he is a monster. I have to fight monsters, but keep his identity a secret. I'm explaining the stories and premises of these stories exceptionally poorly, but yeah, it's probably just my neck hurting. Alright, so bottom shelf, the final stuff. Oh shit, I'm blocking everything. So right here, right there, we have the first 9 volumes of Dandadan, a manga that is, or a series that is very hot right now because of the anime season 1 just wrapping up and season 2 being announced. So I bought this at the same time as the Luffy Samurai and Sakamoto Days, so I'm planning to reading that at the same time as the others. The author of this was actually the assistant of Fujimoto, who did Chainsaw Man, which is the series right here. So it will explain the batshit crazy stuff that happens in here. And also, in case you're wondering, the author of Hell's Paradise is also a former assistant of Fujimoto. And there was one more, I can't remember. Anyway, so next to that we have Chainsaw Man Part 1 completed, and then most of Part 2. Part 2 is also seems like it's about to wrap up. Just as with Fire Punch, it is weird but in a fascinating way, and it's gonna get a movie soon that covers probably the most cinematic arc in all of manga. It is insane how cinematic that arc is. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a bit difficult, but yeah, Chainsaw Man. And next to that is not the enemy. Fuck, I'm too tired. The manga I alluded to might be the only other manga that I may have regretted actually buying, which is Sundome. It is an edgy manga. It is only 8 volumes long. I did a review on it a long time ago. Not the best review. Essentially, it's about this guy who is in a club where if they stay virgins until they graduate, then they're gonna have a lot of opportunities in their personal lives. And then this girl gets into his class and into this club, and she's constantly edging him on to, well, do the naughty stuff with her, but she will never let him. And it drives him insane, and, well, stuff happens. And it has more to say than just the sexual aspect of it, but it's also exceptionally predictable. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, it's worth a read, but it's not the best manga. That's all I'm gonna say. I have not regretted buying it. And also, since it has now been out of print forever, I bought it while it was going out of print. You cannot get it anymore unless you want to go deep into your pockets or get it, well, second-handed and in bad shape. I'm holding on to it also because of that. But yeah, Sundome. And then at the tail end we have the Gundam, which is the manga Kentaro Miura did. That was not Berserk, but he did it later in his career, so the art in there is absolutely insane. And the only thing that infuriates me more than anything else about this manga is that it didn't continue. It's pretty much just he's set up for a bigger story and a bigger world, and it is so intriguing and enticing, and I want more, but I'm not getting it. That's the only thing I don't like about this manga. It is too good at what it does. And then at the end we have Sandland in Kajiga, 2 Akira Toriyama stories. So I liked before, I had more Akira Toriyama stuff. Sandland, most of you should know about now because it just got an anime and has a game coming out. The game has dropped, I don't know. It's probably the best story that Akira Toriyama told. But, you know, since it's only 1 volume, it's quite limited in what it does. But what it does, I think it does better than Dragon Ball. Even though I do enjoy Dragon Ball more. Then Kajiga is basically just a Dragon Ball light story, but with a different premise, but I do like it. And yes, that is my manga collection. I have my phone somewhere. So that is my collection. I own totally 762 volumes. So I passed the 750 volume goal this year, which is awesome. That means that the next big milestone will be 1,000 volumes. But it's gonna take a while. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to collect 118 or even 100 plus volumes next year. But that's something I'm gonna touch upon in my upcoming wishlist video. But yes, that is it. And in case you're curious, how much of my collection have I actually read? Well, I keep going out of focus. Considering that I have saved a lot of volumes for reviews, so I haven't read those yet, then I have read roughly 85% of my collection. Which is decent. It's not the best, but it's up there. So that is it. That is my collection. What do you think about it? I'm curious to know, what do you think about my collection? Do you think it has too many mainstream series? I mean, I don't care about that. I only collect what I like. Is there something you think I'm missing? I mean, shoujo titles I am missing, but I need to find something that I think is intriguing enough for me to actually read, since I'm not the targeted demographic. And is there anything else you think I should get? And also, what does your collection look like? You don't need to list everything if you have a lot, but you can list at least some of it. Maybe your top 5 series that you own, and also how many volumes you own. Yeah, my neck is hurting as hell. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm not gonna keep you any longer. I'm looking very much forward to see what your collections looks like and what your top 5 stories are. And if you're curious about mine, then I'll make a video, I guess. Alright, I'm gonna end here. Thank you so much for following me this crazy year of 2024. It's been an amazing year for collecting manga. I actually managed to collect a lot of great stories, managed to read a lot of great stories, and I'm looking very much forward for next year of what it has to offer of even more crazy good stories. Alright, until I see you in the next video, which should be be manga wish list. And remember to stay awesome. See ya. Jesus Christ, my leg.